Hey friends, welcome back. So today's video, we're gonna get a little bit spicy, a little bit controversial. If you had seen my stories a couple of days ago over on Instagram, I asked you all for your cozy mystery hot takes and unpopular opinions. I know that a little while back, I did do a video where I kind of expressed my cozy mystery pet peeves, and I wanted to do kind of something a little bit similar, but I wanted to get you all's feedback because I feel like if you have read as many cozies as I have, or as you have, I'm assuming when you're watching this video, you have come across multiple things that maybe grate your nerves or just all around get under your skin. And some of them could be considered controversial. Others, very well, you may share the same opinion as others. So that said, I figured I would share with you all the responses that I received so that we can see where we all fit in. Do we agree? Do we disagree? Obviously, if you have some additional kind of hot takes or opinions or thoughts or whatever as a go for cozy mysteries, feel free to leave them in the comments below. I did get quite a few responses, which I'm super happy about. So thank you all for everybody who submitted everything. And I'm just kind of gonna go through them and give a little running commentary. This is gonna be super casual. Obviously, I didn't memorize any of these. So I'm just going to be looking down at my phone just to kind of scroll through them. So without further ado, let's jump into those hot takes. Okay, so first one up, I feel we are coming in hot. The first one we have is Agatha Christie is not a cozy mystery author. Agree, disagree? Now, personally, I would have to agree with that. More for the fact that she technically was considered just a general mystery author before the term cozy was even invented. But even beyond that, if you look at the breadth of her work, more often than not, her characters are not amateur sleuths. So yes, before you used to say it, Miss Marple could be considered a cozy because she is an older woman who is not a detective or police investigator or anything like that. So yes, she could be considered cozy. But in terms of Agatha Christie as a whole being blanketed as cozy, that would be a no. So I agree with you there. Okay, so speaking of books or authors who are not considered cozies, I actually got quite a handful of responses from you all dubbing certain books not cozy. So I'm grouping them all together with this next statement, and then let's just kind of dig in after I read them. So these following books, these people do not consider cozy mysteries. We've got Finlay Donovan, Thursday Murder Club, and Dial A for Aunties. Now, obviously, each of those is part of a series, but the series as a whole, none of them are cozy mysteries. Now, let me know actually, because this is actually a really good topic that I was going to make a video on. So let me know if you would be interested in that as to what is considered a cozy mystery. You would think, at least I would, that it would be obvious. But I feel like as we get deeper into the publishing world with the different types of mystery books, the lines can get blurred. And if you are not familiar with what I would consider classic cozies, you could mistake a certain book title for a cozy mystery. And honestly, I blame a lot of that on this recent trend of illustrated covers. If you're a romance fan, I'm sure you know exactly what I'm talking about. But the illustrated covers give such a whimsical feel. It's easy to see the cover, hear the word mystery, and associate it with cozy, but that is not the case. Finlay Donovan, not a cozy mystery. Thursday Murder Club, not a cozy mystery. And Dial A for Aunties, definitely not a cozy mystery. If anything, it's a caper. So I definitely agree in this case, but again, I'm happy to get into it in a further video because I feel like there's a lot to unpack with that statement. Okay, next up we have, I hate when cozies mean simple or not well written, or when they're considered fluffy. I agree with that. I do think that obviously there are a plethora of cozies, and there's a difference between having a book that is lighthearted in tone, whereas it being considered simple or not well written. Those are two completely different things. And there was a recent reel or discussion that Ellie Alexander and Ellery Adams had recently on their Instagrams, wanting to know synonyms for the word fluffy, because for some reason there's a bad connotation with it. Personally, I don't mind it, but I can see how that can be written off when you are describing a subgenre of books that you love. So it's definitely interesting, and I agree with this person when cozies do not equal simple, for sure. Next, I don't like when backstory mysteries are threaded throughout the series. I can see that. I don't have an example offhand, but I know when it comes to cozies, I say all the time, you can technically dive in anywhere you want during the series, but typically, even though each book has a standalone murder mystery case to solve, what you may miss out on or not be in the loop on is like threaded character development. But if that doesn't bother you, then hey, start on book 15 if you want. Okay. This one's kind of funny. I hate when the townies ask sleuths if they are going to investigate, meaning that they rely on the amateur sleuth rather than going to the sheriff. We get that a lot in cozies that have multiple books in the series. Our sleuth ends up becoming like the go-to person, and sometimes there's a rhyme or reason, like for example, if the police or the sheriffs are portrayed as maybe in on it or maybe not trustworthy or something like that, and our sleuth has clearly been around the town and knows the locals very well, and so they are somebody that the neighbors can trust. But again, I get where this person is coming from. Okay, here's an interesting one, mostly because I was trying to think if I could remember any cozies that actually have this, and I was drawing a blank. But if you guys know of any, drop them in the comments so that I can pass on these cozies to the person who mentioned this. But I prefer third person point of view cozies. Most cozies tend to be written in first person, but I feel like too many cozies are written this way. So again, yes, most cozies are first person POV, but there's gotta be some cozies in third person, right? So again, if you can think of any, let me know in the comments. All right, here we go. This one actually, I got multiple responses about this one. So again, I'm grouping it all together, but I hate the calorie counting and weight talk. It's 2023, let's move on. And to that I say, totally agree. There's no reason at this point that weight or calorie restrictions or any kind of diet talk needs to be in a cozy. I was talking to a couple of my cozy ladies, and there are certain cozies that are a little bit older in terms of when they were published, and I'm pausing because you might hear the siren outside of my apartment. Okay, like I was saying, there are some cozies that were published a while back that tend to be a little bit more old school in their way of thinking. And again, any new cozy coming out now definitely has no excuse to talk about that kind of stuff because it's really not relevant. Okay, here we go. If the sleuth doesn't tell the police key info, I'm done. Yeah, I can get that. So the only time, again, you have to suspend disbelief a little bit when it comes to cozies, which I'm fine with to a certain degree. And there are some cozies where I can see not being extremely forthcoming right away to the police. A perfect example, more often than not in the first book, our amateur sleuth is the person who is kind of like the main suspect, and if they are finding key pieces of info that still makes them look bad or maybe makes somebody in their family or a close relative look bad, I can see holding on to that just for a little bit so you can do a little bit of a deeper dig. But overall, yeah, I get you on that. Another one says, if there is a love triangle, I am out. Which, again, totally can relate. I can definitely see that. So, I am not a fan of love triangles. I'll go ahead and say it. There are some times where it's done well. I think for me, what annoys me more than anything is the will they, won't they relationship that is dragged on through cozies. I know cozies that have done both well and not so well, but I can definitely see it getting under your skin if that is not your jam. Speaking of love interest, let's kind of continue with that theme. Not every cozy needs a love story or romantic interest. 100% agree. And don't get me wrong, I love romance. That's another genre that I read a lot of. But personally, if I'm picking up a cozy, it's not for the romance. And honestly, I can do without. Now, there are certain cozies, and my favorite cozy mystery series, the Donna Andrews, Meg Langslow cozy mystery, she does have a love interest in the beginning, but they get together almost immediately, and he essentially becomes a secondary or side character. That kind of thing I'm okay with. But there are cozies where they do have an evolved, you watch them kind of court relationship, and it could get in the way of the mystery. I give it to you. Okay, another one is... this could be a hot take, but it's still dealing with the romance factor. This person loves when the sleuth dates a cop and when they work together. I have seen instances like that, and I do think it makes it neater. It makes it more realistic. Well, let me not say realistic. It gives a plausible excuse for our amateur sleuth to have her hand in the pie or kind of know the goings on and things like that. Personally, I'm not a fan of when the amateur sleuth and the sheriff are antagonistic toward each other or butt heads. I think it adds an additional hurdle that's not necessary. I don't necessarily need them to be together, but I also don't want them to be enemies. All right, another one about nobody liking love triangles. Okay, one person says the romance subplot should progress quicker, which again, I agree with. Going back to my Meg Langslow series, I think they met within the first, I think either the first, second, or third book, and by then they were an item, and he kind of just, I don't want to say faded into the background, but he wasn't a main plot point anymore, and I was just fine with that. Okay, here we go. Now let's talk about the settings. It doesn't always have to be a small town. I love to have more cozy set in cities. So I can see that. And I think that there is starting to be a trend where I'm at least seeing a lot more cozy mysteries set in larger or more metropolitan towns. I personally still love the small town vibe. I think it helps me suspend my disbelief with a lot of things, since people tend to talk and gossip more, and it's just so easy to solve things quicker if you are in a larger city and your police have the resources to do so, whereas in a cozy, you know, things take a little bit longer, and thus it gives our sleuth longer and more time to kind of hit the pavement and ask questions herself. But it's definitely a valid point, and so I can see what they're talking about there. Okay, another one is the main character shouldn't break the law when looking for clues. For example, break-ins. I can go here or there with that. I think it depends on how it's presented, because if it's done well, it's easy to keep up and follow along and be on board with what the character is doing. But if it's not done well, definitely cringy. Okay, if the plot isn't about investigating a murder, for example, a murder, a puzzle, a disappearance, etc., it's not a mystery. Yes, I totally agree with that. Again, going back to like Dial A for Aunties, Finley, Donovan, etc., what categorizes a cozy / mystery or something else. So I definitely agree with them there. Okay, I know at this point I'm bopping all around because I was trying to keep them thematic, but we're just going to kind of run with it and do the rest of them in order. So the next one that we have is not all coffee related shop cozy mysteries are fun or good. That's a hot take to me, or an unpopular opinion, what have you, because admittedly, I love coffee themed cozies. I just love coffee. So admittedly, I will become interested in a cozy mystery if it's coffee themed automatically. But to that I say, I agree, like not every cozy is gonna be amazing, blow you out of the water. I can see something becoming redundant or just tired, and I can see where they're coming from. I love coffee. I love the coffee cozies that I've read thus far. Actually, nope, I take that back. There was one, I don't want to write off the entire series, but there was one book in a coffee related cozy or coffee themed cozy that I did not love whatsoever. So, yes, I agree with them, I guess. Here's another one. As much as I like Stephanie Plum's series, I'd like to end it at some point. No, I'd like it to end at some point and marry someone and still do her job. So there's a lot to unpack in that one. First of all, do you consider the Stephanie Plum series a cozy mystery? I am on the fence. Majority of me wants to say yes, because she fumbles through her job and she's technically not law enforcement, but then again, I feel like the bail bondsman is under that umbrella, kind of like a detective, where you are officer adjacent, and so you have a bit more liberty than your average Joe, for example, a coffee shop owner. But then again, Stephanie Plum is terrible at her job. She's not formally trained, and there's a lot of hijinks that go on that would categorize it in the cozy mysteries, especially when you think of her quirky side characters. But it also takes place in Jersey, which is not a small town. So again, I can go back and forth. But anyway, I do agree with them though about ending the love triangle, figuring out who you're with so you can just be with them already and not just have the Ranger versus Joe will they won't they love triangle of the century. Here we go. I can't vibe with an unlikable main character. Same, 100% same. In fact, I have DNF'd some cozies before because the main character just did one too many things that annoyed me, whether that's me reading it physically with my eyes or listening to it on audio and not being able to jibe with the narrator. I am not the kind of person who can follow along with an unlikable main character. So 100% see where they're coming from, and I agree. Okay, so last one up. I had to dig through my messages because this came through as a message and not a reply to my story. But they say, once I wrote a cozy mystery where the protagonist parked in a handicap spot when they were able-bodied. I closed the book and I never opened it again, which, I mean, that's just the right thing to do. I can't think of a situation where it would be justifiable for somebody to park in a handicap zone when they weren't handicapped. And I mean, yes, it might be portrayed as such a small, innocuous thing, but I really think, kind of going back to the unlikable main character, that really just speaks volume about the character. And I don't know if I could be on board with somebody if that's what they did. Not to say that I would totally write them off, not to say that there aren't specific scenarios where it could be written well, but just taking it for face value, I would definitely have to agree. Okay, so there you have it. Again, I really appreciate all of you who submitted your hot take, your unpopular opinion, your gripe, your vent, whatever. Let me know if you'd like to do a part 2 of this, and if so, I can throw up another poll, or you guys can just send me messages on Instagram or reply to that with your new, fresh hot takes, maybe things that you come across more recently in cozies. But yeah, this was fun. I think there were some debatable items in there, some hot takes, but I think many of us tend to be on the same page when it comes to things that we like and could do without in cozies. Again, diet talk, no. Love triangles don't seem to really be popular in cozies. Again, don't get me wrong. In romance, they have their place. I'm not a fan, but there are people who gobble it up, and I think that it's better suited for things like that. But in a cozy mystery, maybe not so much. I don't know. You guys let me know. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please like and subscribe. In the meantime, I will talk to y'all later. Happy reading. Bye!